Welcome to Reddit Aliens. Serious. People who used to not believe in the paranormal but do now. What experience changed your mind? Posted one day ago. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. I always wanted to believe but never had any experiences of my own to allow me to. Until one day I was home alone and, as plain as day, heard someone stomp up my basement steps to the floor I was on. I was sitting maybe 12 feet away from the steps, and I was frozen as soon as I heard them. I was watching closely, and the sound got all the way to the top of the steps, but no one was there. My cat was sleeping on the couch adjacent to me. He woke up suddenly and stared right at the stairs too. He heard it too. So that's how I knew I wasn't crazy. Shit was wild to experience. I wouldn't say I didn't believe, but I wasn't a full believer. I was middle ground. Then a few years ago, I moved into my now house. I'm in my mid-40s, so I've essentially gone my entire life with zero paranormal experiences. It started out as a weird, I think ghosts live here, but I never felt they were harmful. They were just there. I couldn't even give a specific example, but I just knew I wasn't alone. Then my dog started acting weird. At night, he'd start looking at the ceiling like there was something there. Happened a few times a week. Then I'd be in bed and I'd feel something walk across the bed. Thinking it was the dog, but nothing was there. This happened all the time. Doors would close strangely. Lights would flicker, but the constant was the footsteps across the bed. For the first year or so, I never said anything to my husband. I for sure thought he'd think I was crazy. Then one night, he bolts up in bed and was like, "Did you feel that?" It was the footsteps. We both realized we'd been experiencing the same thing, and both thought we were crazy, LOL. The clincher for me, though, was when my dog woke me one night to go for a pee. I let him out and was watching him through the peephole in the door. I very clearly saw a man and a woman dressed in Victorian-era clothing standing together looking at something in my hedges. It was like 2 a.m. I took a step back and was like, whoa, obviously half asleep, and did it just see that? Then went back to look again, and sure enough, they were still there. I've never seen them again since, but I know for sure they were there. I know without a doubt there's some sort of spirit in the house, but I also feel like it's friendly, so not worried about it. Now when something weird happens, my husband and I are like, oh, the ghosts are active tonight. Oh, can finally post. I used to live in Finland for 1.5 years and had a chance to rent an old house, 2 stories with huge rooms in the middle of a little parish. Many have said that house is called Moomin's house because it was purple with little tower. At first, everything was normal. Had been living there for 2 weeks when neighbor came around to speak, and at some point, he, in the middle of the conversation, pointed out to me that every family or a single person who had been living there moved out in 1 week because very weird things were going on there, like lights going out at random times, noises and scratches, and some rooms went very cold all of a sudden. Also, screams were heard. I first thought that, okay, haven't heard anything yet, but skipped to 1 week later when I went to the kitchen to make food, and all of a sudden I hear very heavy steps at the 2nd floor. First I thought that maybe something fell. Then I went to the 2nd floor and saw nobody, but felt a bit colder than they're used to. Then I went back downstairs, left the light on. When I went to the 2nd floor, the lights were off. I was like, wow, what the hell? I left lights on thinking to myself. Then I asked if there's anybody there. I heard steps again from the kitchen, but wasn't brave enough to go back there. I was shaken up what I just witnessed because I never believed in such things. Skip an hour later, when I'm in the middle of a CSGO round, all of a sudden, my PC shuts off without any errors, warnings, or electricity problems. Then, I had a feeling that somebody was watching me. I slowly turned around, but there was nobody. I started crying because I was legit scared that it's going to harm me. Skip to the next morning. Everything was normal until midnight, when I woke up to very violent scratching, steps, and growling. After that, I started to cry again till I fell asleep. Next day, I went to my boss and asked if he knew anything about this house. Oh boy, he had a story to tell me. First thing he said, that it was a mini hospital in World War II where soldiers died, and later on it worked as a hospice, and finally was a kindergarten where a little boy was suffocated to death. He asked me if I saw somebody like he knew all along. I told him everything I've heard. Then he tells me to move out and never look back. When I was about 13, my mom, sisters, and I went to go visit our great-grandma and grandma. It was right after Christmas, and we were going to stay for the weekend and then head back home. Well, the day came for us to leave, and Mom said that we had to stay one more night. Well, might be being a bratty 13-year-old that just wants to get home to some Wi-Fi, I threw a big fit and ran up to my room. My sisters and I were sharing. I get into the room, and no one was there, so I closed the door, threw myself under the covers, popped my headphones in, and blasted my music. I don't remember how much time passed now, but it wasn't long. If I were to guess, maybe 15 or 20 minutes. I all of a sudden feel someone jump on the bed right next to me. Now, I'm still pissed, and I thought one of my sisters came into the room to bother me, so I ripped the covers off me to yell at them, and no one is there. I scrambled off the bed, took a quick look around to make sure it wasn't my sisters, and effing bolted. I didn't even tell any of them until we got back home because I was too afraid to speak about it. 2 experiences at my current workplace, old-ass building, renovated into something new. Had a few previous staff mention they've seen a woman in white at the top of the stairs or walking through the kitchen. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Until the day everyone was in bed, 1 staff upstairs, 1 at the table with me, and I turned around and very briefly saw a face in the dark conservatory. My heart could have leapt out of my chest. I made someone check with me just in case it was an intruder. Nothing. Doors locked, no one's there. 100% first thought was not, oh my god, ghost, it was, oh my god, intruder. We have meds and vulnerable people, so when I say we checked. I was also walking out of the kitchen another time, and I felt someone tap my shoulder. When I turned, there's literally no one behind me, or even in the room. Nothing else has really happened since, though some PM night staff did report a few strange sightings, but not for a while. I'm not like early day Ryan Bergera, carrying holy water in a water pistol and screaming at a torch believer. Not a dig, I'm a huge fan of the Ghoul Boys, but it has made me believe it's possible because I cannot explain these events. I've believed in ghosts and stuff like that all my life, but my most recent being when I was staying at my uncle's a couple years back. I was about 22-ish. I was the only one there. My uncle was out doing whatever at like 3 a.m. Anyways, I was dozing off to sleep, and I heard a little girl saying, "Help." I couldn't hear myself answering her, but not quite aware, I don't know. But we went back and forth with help and help you with what? She finally said, "The picture." Then I jumped up, heart racing, and I shut the door, which I'm pretty sure I shut before even trying to sleep. The next day I went downstairs to my aunt's, upstairs, downstairs type building, I forgot what it's called. Well, I told her about it, and she told me her daughter saw a kid in that window of the room I was in before. I moved out ASAP. I have an amazing one for this. When I was around 9 or 10, I was camping with a friend's family, and one night while I was sleeping, someone I didn't know unzipped the tent, looked me dead in the eye, and asked, "Do you have a hammock tarp?" Besides the fact that I have no idea what the hell that is, this dude was absolutely ginormous, like Shaquille O'Neal but fatter. Later, while me and my friends were peeing, yes, we peed together, I was 10, shut up. He brought up that his dead uncle died in a car crash with his friend's aunt. Used to fish around here, and upon seeing a photo of him, it was the exact dude who came into the tent. Creepy as hell. TL, DR. Saw a friend's dead uncle while camping at night. My sister and I were getting ready to go out one day. I was doing my makeup in front of a large mirror, and in the periphery I see her come into the room and stand in the background, watching me get ready. After about 30 seconds I ask her, "Are you ready?" But she didn't reply. I was still looking at myself, but I could see that she hadn't moved. I repeated the question and still no response. Finally I asked, "What are you doing? Why won't you answer me?" and turned to face her. As I looked toward her in the mirror, I saw an unfamiliar woman standing there who looked nothing like my sister. By the time I finished turning around, she was gone and the room was empty. There's no way I imagined it. I had seen her walk in. She stayed there for about 2 minutes, and I saw her very clearly as I turned. The fact that I actually talked to her says it all. A few months later, my great-grandma and great-aunt who lived there, both separately, described the same woman watching them in other parts of the house. I only told my mom, not them, so she was as shocked as I was when they talked about it. None of us had ever believed in the paranormal, and none of us ever told ghost stories. I don't have any stories of my own, but 2 from people close to me. My best friend from grade school was messing with a Ouija board and apparently communicating with a spirit. He asked what the spirit's name was, and immediately someone called his house and filled up the answering machine with panicked jabbering in a language he'd never heard before. This was around 2 a.m. The night my mom died, she was talking to someone she saw in the corner of her hospital room. No one else in the room saw anyone there. She knew that people were going to take her that night. This was witnessed by the hospital staff and my stepdad, who was not the type to make up shit like that. Saw a shadow figure. I've never felt cold fear like I did that moment. I was startled so badly. That was when I was 9 and just haven't stopped believing since. I think it also instilled in me a caution, like I do my best to avoid interacting with anything supernatural to this day. I believe in it, but I don't want to get close to it all. Oh boy, do I have reasons to believe in it. Okay, so these things I'm about to say may come off as nothing special, but I kinda shat myself, lol. So the first ever thing I could really explain easily was when I was around 5, I think. I remember it very clearly, which is very weird. I was sleeping, but I had a nightmare, so I woke up and started calling my mom. I heard her get out of bed and walk down to the corridor until I saw her shadow in my doorframe. I was waiting for her to come to my bed, but the shadow siding moved and an inch. I called her so many times, but she stayed there. I started looking at the shadow more closely and realized that it was too tall to be my mom, but too skinny to be my dad. I got scared and started yelling for my mom to come to me, but after a while I lost my voice. After this, immediately everything in my house started ringing. Phones, the doorbell, the microwave, alarms, clocks, you name it. Everything that could ring or beep started making noise. The thing that was in my doorframe started raising an arm while moving forward and started pointing at me. I was freaking out. I was pushing myself against the wall trying to get away from it, but something shook me and suddenly everything stopped ringing and the shadow disappeared. It was my mom. She was beside me, still half asleep, shaking me, telling me I was looking blankly around, me scared as F while crying my eyes out. I didn't sleep for a week, lol. For years, nothing weird happened anymore, but last year I had a few weird things happen. Very small, but still weird. I got into paranormal stuff, and I had a friend of mine who could read tarot, so he practiced on me and found out that the spirit of a child was near me and wanted to tell me something. I had no idea who this kid was. Apparently, it was a little girl related to my dad. A few days after finding this out, something tugged on my shirt as I was sitting at my desk. It was the perfect height for a child to grasp on. I thought it was my little sister at first, but there was no one at home with me. It happened 2 other times, and after asking my friend about it, he couldn't get an answer. He said that a male deity was mad at me and didn't want me to know. Few hours after knowing this, I felt something like a whimper behind me. It sounded like a man. It sounded like it came directly from behind me and like the person was standing behind me. I freaked out so bad, lol. I think this is everything. Might be dumb, but still these things happened. Oh, and yeah, the first thing could be sleep paralysis, but I was sitting on my bed and I didn't feel stuck, so yeah. My mom has no memory of this, 0. This is what freaks me out the most.